Hello, lovelies. Hollie Hope here with the Beauty Perspective, offering some perspective about past lives, our soul connections, and how some of these things from the past or the future may or may not impact your present emotional state, the traumas that you experience, the karmic circles that seem to always operate. Now, past lives are a question I get asked a lot about in my practice over the years, just because we're dealing with emotions that are coming up. We're dealing with unconscious parts of ourselves that are programmed into self-sabotage, and especially when we're activating our spiritual connection and understanding our uniqueness in that connection with spirit. Sometimes those past experiences or connections outside of this 3D can get really confusing, or we can have people that share information in a way to feed our ego rather than feeding our soul. So I'm going to start out by sharing a little bit about a experience I had. Now, this was a hypnotherapy session, and it was a past life regression, which is a hypnotherapy where you typically dive into your own unconscious. You're connecting with your own higher self, your own spirit guides and angels to understand information of your soul. So it's more of the soul's journey and travel. Now, for me, what is true for me is not going to be true for everyone. And sometimes we learn best by hearing other people's experiences. Even if we push away from those experiences because they're not true for us, we still made movement. So the piece I want to share is I was in this session, and I remember being in the session, and within my mind's eye, I had this illustration display, very similar to if you're sitting and using your imagination, and I said, envision some purple grapes, and you close your eyes and you thought of purple grapes. That's very much of what it feels like when you have an inner eye moment or an inner visual. And in this inner visual, I saw this little boy. And this little boy loved life and loved adventure. And he was doing all of it. And so I watched him go through these fields and touch the grass with his fingers. I watched him go up to these mountaintops and climb. And I watched him basically in a massive, really fast montage go through and do every experience there was to on the earth. Everyone, every ocean, every cliff, every view. And he's just by himself traveling the earth, exploring all of it. Which for me, I was like, yes, that's exactly what I want to do with my life. Now, after the boy had experienced everything there was to experience, he sat and he kind of slumped on some steps. And he's looking out over and he's just bored. There's nothing else left to explore. There's no new experience to have. And in this boredom, in this sitting, this stagnancy, suddenly the scenery changes around him. And he's still bored, but he's up in this cosmic space. So almost like he's sitting on a cloud of stars. And everything around him is blackness and space-like. And you can see the earth off in the distance. And he's just sitting there. And he's just slumped. And he's just waiting. And as he's slumped and sitting there waiting, suddenly he gets an idea. And this little boy bursts into fragments of stardust. So small that it almost doesn't even look like glitter. So tiny that you can't even perceive what just happened, except because it's in my mind's eye. I know what happened because I'm having that intuitive guide with me. And all of these little fragments go down to the earth. And then one little fragment goes bloop into a soul, into a body. And then another one into a body, and another one into the body. So pretty soon, these millions of fragments that I can't even count or even try go into all these little humans. And now the earth is filled with humans with this little spark inside. So now we have the essence and all of these little pieces of this same soul, now able to experience it from different perspectives, different places in time, and also with each other. So to be able to see oneself and that perspective, and also see yourself reflecting in a different perspective and how they interact. So say one man is able to reflect a piece of that boy and another man is reflecting a different piece of that boy, but together they're experiencing the self with self. This is where the term namaste resonates so much, because the God in me that is active honors and celebrates the God in you, because we all come from that same original soul. Now we can look at the analogy here and say the little boy is actually God himself or herself. We can say the boy is actually our original soul that we come from. We can also allow it to be an analogy of just experiencing the oneness that we all are. Or the boy could be one of our past lives. Or perhaps those sparks that dispersed through all space and time went into simultaneous times that are in a different timeline. Because when we talk about time, time is a measurement so that we can assess and track what we're experiencing. So if I'm sitting with time, which we'll do a different video about time itself, but if I'm allowing time to be irrelevant and say a spark goes into a form of soul that I'm connected with 100 years ago and today, it is two forms that are interacting independently, but they come from the same place. Another way to look at this is if we think of a tree. Say this is my tree. This is the original soul, the trunk. So the tree came from one source. But in that same tree that has roots that nourish and all of the things that make up that whole tree as a whole, which we'd call the soul, we have different branches. One branch is going to be, for example, me, Hollie Hope. This is my branch, which means my experience and who I am has never been before. There has never been a version of my soul that has come into the world with the DNA programming I have, with the experiences around me that I have, the experiences and thoughts that I've acquired or created. That's never going to exist again. It's already existing now. And even tomorrow, that form is going to shift into something slightly different, or maybe drastically different, depending on what tomorrow holds. So this version, this Hollie Hope, has never existed before. Now, sometimes people would say, oh, but Hollie Hope becomes this other person, becomes this other person, becomes this other person. We can say that to a degree, but none of those people would actually be me, because I'm the only me that's ever going to exist. You are the only you that will ever exist, ever. So that form is unique. Now, when we benefit or even have frustrations or conflicts with parts of ourselves, there's the other branches that are part of our soul. So let's say in this branch, I was a queen and off with their heads and very tyrant, right? Let's say this one, I was a young, poor maiden, and this one I'm a witch, and this one I'm a mermaid. Let's get really fun. And maybe I'm a cat in one of those. So in this version that is Hollie Hope, I can travel on those veins through time and space and access what it would be like to be a tyrant queen and be that demanding person and causing pain on other people. Ooh, I may not like that. So I'm going to probably shift and choose something opposite of the frequency that she plays on. I might go to these other veins and say, oh, you know what? I'm in water. I wonder what it would be like to be a mermaid. Oh, wait, we actually have information we can access from that mermaid land. And so I can pull in those and have this special affinity with water or these sensations that I'm feeling as I connect with that lifetime that isn't me, but has a connection with me, if that makes sense. So the mermaid over here can also go, I'm in the ocean. What would it be like to walk? What would it be like to forest frolic? Oh, wait, there's a signature of Hollie Hope, who's a forest frolicker. Now, this mermaid lifetime may be in a different reality, maybe thousands and thousands of years ago. Same thing with the tyrant queen. Like, they could be any space and any time. But energy bypasses time and space. And the reason we know this is because you can sit and think about a painful event that happened to you in the past. And if you really focus on it, you can feel all of the emotions of that event. And in fact, we remember events better when there is a powerful, strong emotion attached to it. So it is on the waves of emotion that we're able to energetically travel to these different places. So let's say in this lifetime, I'm having a really hard time allowing myself to be a leader. And every time I get in a role of leadership, I just find that I'm doubting myself. I'm afraid I'm going to be too much. And I'm just feeling kind of scared and off. Well, odds are I can access with that emotion of fear that I'm feeling the same emotions with the queen. And let's say in this queen, she had no problem being too much. In fact, she liked it. And because I can access that, perhaps I'm holding back or having a conflict within because I don't want to be a tyrant queen, but I do want to be able to stand up in my strength, but I don't want to go that far. And so lessons are also passed through here. Experiences are also passed through these channels. And so are information of how to go about doing something. You know, somebody being a queen and a master of strategy, maybe there's a strategy I need with a friction with a coworker, and all I need is that little oomph of information, and it will allow me to stand up in my Hollie Hope form, but embodying part of that queen essence. It also allows that queen essence to access part of the Hollie Hope, which says, let's connect deeper. Let's be one. Let's allow ourselves to let all of the parts of us be expressed and explored. Now, this tree analogy is just a simplified version of understanding that everything that we feel and experience in this physical form is indeed a regurgitation or a recirculation of energy, and all of the energy holds information. There is no new energy that's been coming to the earth. It's been this energy of rebirth and renewal, this death and reborn. We can add new experiences and codexes and information to the energy, but rarely is it going to be a fleshing or purging of everything. That's where we get into alchemy. If the purpose of the soul is for experience and evolution, then there's no wrong that we can do by having different types of experiences. But if we look at karma and past lives as this cycling loop, this circle that always repeats over and over again until a lesson is learned, then it puts us into a state of shame and stagnancy, because it's believing that we're going to be the same until we heal it, and we're going to be punished until we heal it. But most often, it's about experience. How do you know that you don't want to be a tyrant unless you can access what that would feel like? And then see, oh, actually, I prefer over here. I prefer to do something different. I prefer to walk with people over the bridge of life rather than demanding they go without me. And so allowing ourselves to see those preferences. And so when we talk about karmic lessons, it's about understanding that there is a way we want to experience life. There is a preference to what we experience, not necessarily the shame and guilt of doing something wrong. Because if we understand through the lens of allowing ourselves just to experience and evolve, you can do no wrong. You can't mess it up. You're here to have a beautiful journey. You're here to explore what can be done and what you're capable of. And so much of us is untapped, especially when you think of all of the different energies that are connected to your one source that you're experiencing now. There's a limitless supply of information and opportunity. And so the more we open up and activate those parts of ourselves, the more we can tap into those different potentials and even information of what it would feel like and how to go about doing it. And then we're able to accomplish things with a shortcut, so to speak, or a more advanced understanding of what it would be like. And sometimes we'll start on the path and go, nope, this isn't for me. But then we know, and we still have experience and evolution by determining what preferences we have. So I hope this has been helpful in exploring a little bit of what past lives could be for you and some thought provocation. I would love to know your thoughts and how you resonate with your past life experiences and healing pieces on different levels and different layers of our energy and our cellular memory.